Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Thursday, February the 14th, 2019. And it's been a big day for recording over here. We have BZ now, and Lisa and I. And we'll have to talk about the synchronicity of how this one came about, but we're going to talk about this title is actually Expand What You Thought Was the Ceiling on What Is/Was and Realize it's actually the floor. So we were sharing with BZ our experiences just before this recording, briefly, because we've had 2 recordings today talking about dreams. And as we were sharing that with BZ, she said, oh, that's why she wanted to talk about this, because this was not the planned topic. Or it really wasn't even a planned topic, but you had something else in mind. And before we even described it to you, you kind of landed on this one. And I can see where this one absolutely applies for what we just experienced.
Yeah, and for what everybody is experiencing, of course, their metaphor is all unique to what's going on for them. I think that one way to describe it is that it's helpful to have just an awareness of it, because then a lot of people have been describing in the recent, I don't know, maybe week or so, there seems to be like it's not quite the right word, but it's close, consternation within themselves. That's, on the one hand things are flowing and it seems to be more expansive, and on the other hand it seems to like they're like the engine is misfiring a little bit, and or they'll feel kind of not well for 1 minute and then feel better the next, or it's an emotional unwell and then better, or physical unwell, or like their tummy hurts and then they're sad about something, but the tummy's great, and then they're not sad, they're happy as could be, and so it's kind of like these things. And anyway, so it just comes to heart that an awareness that this floor and ceiling and that whole thing is kind of, you would describe our way of gauging things, or points of reference, or touchstones, or kind of how we walk in the world. Well, when you open a door, it's usually hung on one side or the other, so it's a right hand open or a left hand open. Usually you could see the jamb is square or pretty square, depending on who put the framing in and that kind of stuff. But you don't go up to a door and kind of open a door at an angle and then hop through sideways. So that's kind of a silly descriptor, because most people walk through doors, so they get that. They either go this way or they go that way. But those are all frames of reference. Walk through the door. Okay, so your brain is thinking, okay, I'm gonna look at the door. Oh, the handle's over there, or the handle's over here. And so that you'll know if you got a bag in one hand or whatever, or if you habitually walk through a door, maybe it's a door to work or something, and it's a left hand open door. So if you've got a bag on or something in your hand, you don't have it in your left hand because you're going to walk up to the door and grab it. So those are all frames of reference, and they're not right up front for in not just doors. This is with everything. They're not right up front with how you walk through the world. They're just there. So they're this ubiquitous kind of in the warp and weave and flow of how you walk through something or adjust before, and you might even get out of your car and go, oh, because you don't think about, oh, well, I'm going to put this in my hand or carry this box, because you just do it. You just naturally do it, right? And that's what I'm talking about. So that is the floor, so we would think those things are the floor, and then this is not going to be the right analogy, but then something else makes it the ceiling or something. So in other words, we know we have that space that we navigate through. That's our touchstones. That's our navigational axis, let's say, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, energetic, all those kinds of things. And that's simply not the case anymore. Yes, that we may have the floor and the ceiling, but the floors and the ceilings are totally different. Like the floor now is kind of like the clouds, and we're up at 32,000 feet. That's the floor. To use something that will kind of give you a sense of just how different it is. So that goes back to the consternation. Part of it is energies and all that kind of stuff, but it's also because without realizing that we're going, in essence, but for those frames of reference, that's some of what that sputtering is. That's some of what that kind of, feel great, feel yucky, feel this, feel that, kind of start, stop. And if we realize that, first of all, didn't we have a conversation? I don't know, maybe it was the last conversation about what to expect when you're not judging, labeling. So this is the kind of thing that goes with that. And so what would it be like if you woke up in the morning and you just woke up in the morning and you noticed and you looked around and you tuned into you and you tuned in maybe to the chair, bed, or whatever, where you were, and you tuned in a little further in your room there, the pillows and the walls, and maybe there's a chair in there or something, there's maybe a window or something. You tuned into just outside the window. You tuned into just outside, if your room has a door, to the door of your room, and if there's a hall or there's this, and you tune in. And all this, because we can do this all in a nanosecond. Most people don't. But we can do this in a nanosecond right now. You tune in just around your apartment. Maybe it's an apartment, so there's lots, one square-ish structure inside of a building of those, or a house, or whatever it is. And then, so that kind of sets our floor right there. Tune in, and we can get a sense of what the weather's like. We can get a sense of what the vibe is like in our home, whatever that is, if there's only one of us, or maybe we have a cat, or maybe we have kids, or maybe there's lots of people, so whatever it is, we can get a sense of that. We can get a sense of, like, your house is it's only a single story house, right? And so you've got a bit of yard, and then you've got where the street comes and where the cars park, and there's neighbors. And so you can do that, and that's kind of setting your locality of your ground floor. But you can do it, in a couple of blocks, or what your neighborhood might be, or, your town, your city, so on and so forth, as one small sphere to describe the ground floor then. Does that make sense? But so often we don't do any of that. And so often we wake up back on whatever floor we were dancing on, or stomping on, or being buried under, or however, it may have arrived for you the night before, or the day before, or maybe we were in the floor was something that we were churning on or reliving, or hey, maybe we just had a therapy appointment and it was 30 some odd years ago, and and we then, because we're not conscious about how we're moving through things, we're not in tune, that's our floor right there, and we set it through what everything is. And so right now, right now, as the energies are all expanding, and as we are shifting and this may be one way to describe it, peeling off realities, peeling off timelines, peeling off frequencies, peeling off little flows and eddies of vibrational frequency, energetic envelopes from different, it's not accurate, but from different things that were past yesterday, 2 months ago, 8 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was, and they're going off, so they're not there. So as they become not there, there is just a shifting, and so everything coalesces. So it's like doing the same thing. The difference between tuning into your room when you first wake up in your bed, right here, right now. Okay, what do I notice? And an obvious one, if it's raining to beat the band and thunder and lightning. Oh, okay, hey, I noticed that. If it's a little bit more subtle, you have to feel into it a little bit more. But what I'm saying is, as these different things come off, it's not the right way to describe it, but it's just a good illustration tool. Come off, collapse, dematerialize, shift, and so that there's an opening. Remember we talked, I think it was in the Judgments one anyways, where you can be here now and shift something here, which shifts something back here. And so you've never left here. In fact, here is the only place you are, but you've totally let go of that past thing, whatever it was. So you would feel, if you were always scared because you were really terrified at, say, age 16 because you got thrown into a pit and a bunch of spiders bit you, and so you like, oh my God, that creeps you out, right? Okay. And you've done something in this now moment and you've let go of that. Well, that changes your ground floor, doesn't it? Because if you walk out and before there would have been a spider, it's like, everybody within a 3 state locality could have heard you screaming, and now it's like, oh, would you like to go outside, or shoo them out the door, whatever it is. So that's what I'm talking about. It's in some instances a very small, minor shift, and some instances it's a very large shift. Some instances it's a glaring shift. Some instances it's an incredibly dramatic shift, and you can have all those things that just kind of touching or align with each other. Hence the way I started describing it at first. It's kind of like, and so if you realize to tune in, the bigger picture conversation about what was and what is not the ground floor, not the floor. As a whole new way of walking through the world, being through all your dimensionalities, but also in the moment. Oh, I woke up, or oh, I got off work, or oh, I'm taking a break for whatever, or oh, I'm going to sit down to meditate, or whatever it is.
Well, when you first shared this one with us, which was, back in January, or, well, I don't know, that might have been on one from previous too, I'm not sure. But when I felt into that one, into the title, expand what you thought was the ceiling on what was/is, and realize it's the floor. At that point, I was thinking, my feeling about it was, oh, well, just like a lot of things, I was kind of holding ascension as, well, I mean, you've said it a couple of times, are we there yet? Kind of thing. And so when this first came out, I was thinking in terms of that, in that, what a lot of the thinking, or, the feeling, sharing that goes on, different blogs and whatnot, we had things like the event and things like this. I was feeling it more like, yeah, there is no there anyway. And that whatever that there that I held as expansion even. So when I first got this, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's not even the ceiling, that's the floor. So I can see where this is like more broad, period. It's well, too, with all with all of it. Well, I was also feeling busy as you were speaking too. Some of the I get spatial differences sometimes too. So this feels some of that too. And what I mean by spatial differences, that momentary dizziness or something, and it doesn't last very long. Usually it's just bleep. Oh, okay. What was that? It's not, it's like, that seems to be happening more and more. So I was holding it, or be holding it, I guess, in a manner of speaking, as part of this expansion of what always has been, so to speak. Yes, if you're not ill, then sitting in a chair and a momentary dizziness, well, that's something to look into. But I don't feel that's the, and so for me, it's a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
What we always have held in a specific manner is just not, it doesn't apply anymore.
Right. So that applies with your own health, or with animals' health, or with anything. You just mentioned the health thing, so that's why I was thinking about that.
Right.
Well, and two, I was thinking when you were talking about the door thing, we may not need to open doors go through them. So that would be another ceiling as a floor situation, where we're kind of holding old habits in place. Like if we're in this new magical world, then technically we can do it now. So I asked myself, what's stopping me from doing it now? And mostly it's, I don't believe I can do it now. Right. So that's what I'm unbinding and unwinding inside of myself, because the moment I believe it, then I can see it.
Yes.
As far as that goes, I have to know and believe in the truth of myself and act as though I know it.
And isn't that would you say that how you language things works that way? So you said we're kind of in this new place.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well,
I truly am kind of there.
So you're kind of through the door and not through. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's like being kind of pregnant. It's an odd predicament.
Yes, it is.
One who's been, very pregnant and then not at all.
Yes.
Yeah, so
well, and that's too one of those things that I hold, that I have to open the door, that it takes that. So it is just all of my own doing, where I am. I'm here because of, like you said, the languaging, even some of the things I allow myself to dream, I've noticed. Like I'll catch myself going, well, okay, not that, but, and I was like, wait a minute, why not that? I don't know. I limit myself a lot, I'm noticing. And language is only one small way that I've noticed. I limit myself.
Yeah, and languaging more than anything else for me anyway, is still a habit, a program, you know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
speaking, just speaking in general in a specific manner. I think all goes back to that. So there has been, I mean, I catch myself all the time. Well, and I noticed BZ did too, just a moment ago. She said if, and she stopped herself right then and said, no, we are. There is no if, we are, right? And so that's a very good point for me to take into myself. That's, you know, that's just a matter of that unbinding and unwinding that particular programming within ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so think of some of these things that are pretty common for this. For some reason, this popped in. So, how are you today? And do you tune in right this moment and feel, well, you know, gosh, I'm, I feel this or I feel that or I'm this or I'm that. You know, most people don't. It's back, whatever that, you know, back, which of course is a silly euphemism, but there you go. It's an energy frequency that we stick ourselves in. And I had a fight, or I lost my job, or hey, you know, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, whatever it is. And so, again, it's that external, so much of it is external to us, the surroundings, and the irony, the wonderful effect, or the cruel joke, depending on how, that's just a few ways you might look at it, right? You know, it is that the out there only gets out there because put it out there, and it comes last in the whole sequence of there-ness, right? So if you're using, well, I feel great, you know, because something wonderful happened, that's not to say you can't keep doing that, but usually it's, you know, well, how many times do we have on recording? I think Sheila's done it more than Lisa, but Lisa's done it too. Well, I feel great, and there's no reason why, or there's no, you know, I don't know why I feel that great, or what's wrong with me? I feel great. Okay, you really got to stop and look at a whole planet society when someone says, and this happens an awful lot, I feel great, and I don't know why. And it's like, you know, call out the I feel great police. Well, there's something a little loopy with that.
Yes.
But someone can say, oh, I feel like shit. Oh, I feel terrible. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden, you got a whole room full of people going, yeah, and they can jump right in. They know just what you're talking about.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
But you feel great, and you're like, what's wrong with you?
Well, that whole saying of misery loves company is a saying for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or here's the other one. How awkward is it to try to experience joy in everything? I'm telling you, it was not easy at first for me. I mean, I naturally am a very joyful person. I always have been. But I've really, really focused on it because I know that is the energy of who and what I am. And so I know that really, as long as I'm aligned to that, then anything and everything I do is aligned and right on time. And so I can't even believe how unnatural or how joy is natural, yes. But I have been in a rut and a habit, like you said, of identifying with what's wrong, what's missing, all the things in my life that aren't the things that make me the happiest. And those are the things that I lead my self-conversation with. conversation with others, obviously, like you just said. But there's a habitual pattern that leaves me focusing on anything but joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really shocked and surprised by that, because I thought it would be a lot more easy, I guess. I don't know, because joy, it just sounds so fabulous. But when you're facing things, okay, so I used to think that the things that happened in my life created the joy, right? But actually, it's the joy that comes first, and then you lead with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I don't, I know I'm not, sorry. I know I'm not in alignment, because everything around me starts to fall apart.
Yeah, find joy in the smoke detector.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's no smoke, so I don't see any visual plumes. So
right? It's just a timer. It's not a smoke alarm. But yeah, that's been the challenge for me, is to find my joy, even when the circumstances would dictate. I would think, well, I can't be joyful right now,
Right.
And yet that's when I most need to be joyful.
Yeah, shifting the frequency. So someone asked, I'm having trouble with this, getting this, that it's out there. So I don't know why this came up as an example, but there's someone who asked, get up, take a glass, go over to your sink, flip the faucet on, and fill up the glass of water. Okay. Now take another glass and look at the other glass. It's empty, right? How did the water get in the first glass? Does the glass always come with water? Is there always, and I'm not saying that, oh, well, someone could have come in. Okay, fine. Yeah. That's a whole other thing. But so this is what we're talking about. The joy doesn't get in the glass, to use this metaphor, until you put it in the glass, because you've played with the structural makeup of the joy, which puts it into the glass.
Which, in my estimation, for me, is Lisa's comment that having the joy is where the things come from, which is exactly why I am now only going to pursue that which makes my heart sing, as that which brings me joy is the space from where all that I wish to experience moving forward comes from. Now, that does not mean to say that there isn't going to be things that aren't joyful to experience. As I've shared over the last few days, I've had a lot of sadness and confusion, and all of these feelings that BZ was speaking on earlier have come up for me personally in the last few days. But I will say that while not pleasant to experience, was still a joyful act, in that, for me in particular, in that I wanted to experience it. What is it trying to inform me of? That was my heart's desire, which brought me joy, which eventually brought me a lot of clarity as to what I was experiencing and why.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in not so joyful things, you might think, but knowing that was there I called it forth. Obviously, there were things that I needed and wanted to see, and so it was, and relaxing into it and just allowing it, and crying my eyes out, and just allowing that actually has brought me a lot more joy than I would have thought originally.
Mm-hmm. And so what you just described, well, there's a lot of things, but I'm going to pull one out that you described beautifully is, and it may still be a little bit confusing when I'm done saying this, is that you're starting to illuminate the difference between the frequency of joy, right? And what someone, and that may be you, may judge and label and characterize as not joyful. Or I don't know where you got the definition of joy, but you know. So go back to the other video where what to expect when you experience without label, scripts and judgments, right? So it's a whole different place that you get into. And so kind of marked a nudge to mark right here that one way to describe it is that this is familiar to us and rote to us, and the way to flow and how we roll to us. Some of the us's, beings, never fully forgot or didn't have the, instead of the sackcloth, the forgot cloth, super thick, mils thick. It was just a thin veneer, and others it was, I don't know, like planet with thick or something. And it could have been in all areas, just one area, not here, over here, yes, no, kind of thing. Various, you had a milliliter here and 52 milliliters here, and I don't know, galaxies wide over there and nothing over here, So everybody's going to be different depending on, again, what we set out and chose. We wanted to accomplish, we wanted to create, we wanted to experience, we wanted to flow through. Yes, and all for the expansive joy of it.
Yes.
Well, I was and am very clear that my heart's desire is expansion and growth. And part and parcel of that for me is noticing what arises as it arises and not running from it. Regardless of what it is, that is my heart's desire. And whenever one says those words, well, that's a very joyful feeling. But if that heart's desire, I'm being presented now, that's pretty much what it was. I was being presented, okay, well, this is what this is. Sadness, confusion, all of those things. Rather than, so it is still my heart's desire, and I think that's what you were meaning by this. It's not necessarily what some would term joyful to go through that, but the result, which for me is always the bottom line, what am I after? That my heart's desire is expansion. Yeah. And so it's easier to grasp that for me now than it was before. Mm-hmm. That even some of these sorts of things where it's just like we've talked about before with Lisa's thing about leaning into or sinking down into something to allow it, we were talking about that with her meditation experience, dream, whatever we want to call that. So but it's the same thing. So for me, I can, especially on the other side, and I knew in the moment, well, this is what I want. I don't want to run away from anything. So it's not, or put it down or try to deny what's going on. That doesn't feel joyful either.
Right.
So just allowing to see what presents, and a whole lot of stuff, not just, I mean, it was excellent for me, and I'm sure that I'm not completely finished with that. I don't think any of
Well,
us are.
yeah, and the difference is, let me see if I can describe it and see if this matches what you were feeling, because it sounds like it. So for some, there's a couple of people having questions going, huh?
Oh.
When you are noticing and you are revealing to yourself, which would be it's a more expansive way to say perhaps that you're realizing these different things coming up or going through or you move through, right? Wow, I'm really angry right this minute. Just as an example. So I'm really angry. Now, there's not something that I did that made me angry per se, and there's not something happening out there that's angry. Okay, wow. So is this something that's peeling off that I'm letting go of, that's had a pocket of anger? Have you ever looked at well, this isn't really a good example, but so there's a fissure in something. So this is a crystal, right? And you'll see this is an amethyst. It's actually a chevron crystal. So this is a vein, right, of a pocket of a different substance within this crystal, right?
Right.
So this is a good example. So you're feeling anger all of a sudden. Well, why is that? Was there something happen? Did someone just do something that supposedly, because that's the way we think of it, oh, well, so-and-so made me so angry. No. So-and-so was doing whatever so-and-so was doing, and you chose to play with the anger. Okay. But oftentimes, because right now what's usually happening is because we're letting go of stuff, we tap into veins of sadness or anger or joy, or you can come up with a whole unlimited amount of possibilities. And if we notice it, as Sheila was talking about, and we notice it because we want to experience where it's leading us. It's not that Sheila is saying, and I could be wrong, but it's not that Sheila is saying, well, I really want to experience being sad. No, this is coming up, so I'm going to follow it down. It's like you saw the hind, the white hind came, it's a quest, and I'm going to go. So same thing. Sheila's going, so this is the sad hind. I'm going to go on that quest to, see where it's going. And where's the vein of this? And when you get more in the flow of that, you realize you don't have to dig down and excavate the vein and pull out all the drag. No. But if you allow yourself to feel that, not freak out, maybe it's joy, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's a pain, maybe it's frustration, maybe it's, you just feel like busting a gut laughing and you can't stop, and people are going, that's not funny, and think, well, I think it's really fun, So I've just described lots of different things in lots of different ways. People can say, yeah, I've actually been there or watched someone else doing that. So you move through it, and then you uncover what it is, and all of that is expansion. Because if this is a vein, and in the lower, denser frequency of anger, using this example, then releasing it gets us to the expansion. It gets us to what makes my heart sing, and however you would describe that. And so you're not staying with it. You're not moving into the vein. Well, maybe you could be, but the flow is to not stay there, but to simply flow through it. Just like you'd walk down one path following the deer, and the deer jumps over a tree, and the quest goes this way, and there's a door or a rabbit hole or this or that or the other thing, and you go, and you go through it, and then it's all of a sudden maybe it's this room that's magical, or this room that's so quiet and calm, and that's how we flow through things. To get back to the ceiling and the floor, because someone said, okay, well, what does that have to do with what you're talking about? Well, because when you behold things and use what is your feeling and the frequency in that you're in as your touchstones, as your kind of locators and ways to kind of triangulate what's going on and how to navigate through things. Instead of automatically going to the label that comes to mind. Well, I feel angry, so it's something, I'm doing something wrong to be angry, or it's somebody else's fault, or whatever it is, right? Just simply to notice it. And as Sheila was talking about, she went through, I cried my eyes out and all these kinds of things, and there was more joy, more enjoyment of going through the other side of that than I thought was possible. That's pretty close to a paraphrase, right? And this is what I'm talking about, of these navigation tools, because without knowing to, and these are just words that have been given to help explain this, but she's changed the floor. So what was her floor? What was her starting point? What was her platform from which she navigated things, or judged things, or maneuvered through things, or figured things out, or, puzzle piece collected from however, everybody's going to be different, is completely different than it used to be. And Sheila has, as everybody does, these magical floors that, like, the parquet comes through, slides through, and then you got the hardwood, and then, so her floors are shifting 30, 40, 50, 100 times a day. Completely new floors and completely new ways to look at that. And the same thing happens with the ceiling. So the ceiling you could describe as what you can't do that. Be realistic. That's the ceiling. That's the cap. That, come on, no, that's just crazy talk. No, you're just imagining it. Imagine that. Or that can't be done, or that's not possible, or, the can't break the 1 minute mile. No, human. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's news to some folks back when they broke it. And then all of a sudden, so if you look, take it out of the fantastical, take it out of the expansive, take it out of the truth of who you are for a moment, and go back to what you thought you were for a moment. So you can look at it at a quarter horse racing a quarter mile race and the speed, or the 1 minute mile, or there's all sorts of, not just in sports, there are all sorts of things. And as the first being does whatever that is, and this could be something that's been done for a while at some level, or it's a new thing, it's not only relegated to certain things, but as soon as that happens, it happens a lot. And then you're blowing past, to use the 1 minute mile as an example, you're blowing past those things, and it's like, well, big whoop, 1 minute mile. But there's a correlation to that. There is a flow to that, because it's a frequency thing, because it is a mass consciousness ceiling and floor thing. And so it shifts lots of things. So if you have kids and they're into track and field, and they like all that kind of stuff, and all these athletes that I grew up with at ABC Sports, when we were doing all these shows and remotes and filming, they were household names, and I don't remember them all the time. But did the pole vaulting and broke that because it was a new way, and then all of a sudden it was a new thing. The pole vault used to only be here, and then it was up there, and then it was way up there. So that's not to diminish. I'm not in any way diminishing the desire and the passion and the skill of the different athletes or whatever function that anybody's in. But again, it's that floor and ceiling thing. It's that expectation. It's that judging, labeling. It's the box. It's the boxness. So what I was nudged to bring forward to talk about today is that not only are the boxes all gone, they truly are all gone. The only reason that we may feel or have a perception of a box or the proclivity to bring that box back over here is because we're not allowing ourselves to stand on our new floor and see that the ceiling is light years away from us now, before when it used to be right here. And so how do we claim that? How do we know it and own it and claim it and experience it and then use it in a way that really helps us in just expansion, in job, in life, and whatever it is, right? Well, one is to be more conscious, consciously choose to be more conscious in at least 1 or 2 moments of your day. Instead of going for the whole enchilada thing, I'll just break it into a little piece there. Such as waking up in the morning, or someone says, "How you doing today?" Or, I feel, so step into, notice into, come from the heart in the description, in the response, in the the way you would illustrate with a word illustration how, or you maybe could draw it, how you're feeling or what you're noticing or what you're using kind of as your navigational guideposts or something.
It's interesting to me that you chose the "How are you today?" to bring out, because 9 times out of 10 the answer is always a programmed response. Fine. Partly because maybe folks don't want to burden someone else with whatever they're feeling and or admit to whatever joy they may have going on in their lives. And it has become a rote programmed response, very much like "bless you" after sneezing. It's just and when I was challenging myself on the whole "bless you" issue, that's when I realized and noticed that it is just absolutely a programmed response. Even when I was trying to stop myself from saying it for a long time, I would catch myself saying it because it's just a programmed response.
Mm-hmm.
Much like answering, "Oh, I'm fine. How about you?" And that's almost always what we say. So that's a very easy one to start with for oneself.
Or an excruciatingly difficult one, depending on how honest you are and how fully you step into the toolbox there.
Well, true, but you also perhaps meaning to or accidentally shared on more than one occasion with me in particular, not on camera. "So, how was your day today, BZ?" I saw you think about it, and rather than go down a path you didn't really want to go down, you actually said, "Great, now."
Yes.
Because you were here with us now.
Yes.
And so it wasn't fine. I actually watched you feel into it. It's like, well, that wasn't all that great. So, but my day's great now because I'm here with you, kind of thing. It was the feeling I got.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very clear to me that this is something that you have felt into for yourself. And I brought that up because of I mean, the minute anyone asks that question, almost always the response is, "Oh, I'm fine," or "fair to Midland," or some folks will make up something, that they feel is cute and whatever. But it's also a rote response.
Yes.
Which to me is programming, conditioning. Don't want to bother anybody. There's a little bit of that too. But again, I wanted to share that because that I've witnessed it with you in particular. And so just that isn't, well, like you said, it could be difficult, but it could also be an easier way to just start something. It's the, the whole, a sneeze and a bless you, or a how are you, and fine.
Yeah, because
you
could, you can notice it. You still may not change how you answer that, but now it's this seed, and the seed's got roots, and it's got a little sprout up there, and the leaf's going, hey, remember they talked about this. Yeah, you remember? And look what just came out of your mouth. You didn't turn it into it. So that's cool. The example you've given, I do it a lot. If someone says, how you doing? There are times I may, where it's a long enough pause, usually it's a nanosecond pause, long enough pause that I'm feeling into it. And one of the examples you gave, it was a switching. It's like crossing over the threshold. Well, that was then in that particular thing, and this is now. And so it's fully shifting in gears into that flow. Along the same kind of line, someone was supposed to have, I was supposed to have a couple hours off the last couple days. And so the phone rang, and I looked at the phone, and I thought, okay, well, there goes that. And so the person on the other line said, "Hi," in the very rote kind of way. "Oh, how you doing?" And I said, "I'm tired." And like the jerk back energetically on the phone when I said that was a surprise. Well, it was a completely honest, at that moment, what I was planning to do, looking at the phone, knowing that plan had just got on a jet plane and was streaking across in a different direction. And this was the being that was at the behest of whistling up the airplane for that to get on, was tired. So it didn't mean that I'm tired and going to this whole woe is me. It just meant that was the question. That was, in that moment, the honest answer, because all of those things that had conflated. Now, just to take you a little bit further, so I did whatever I needed to do on the phone. We came up with a plan, and I hung the phone. And then I took a minute to, on the one hand, dive into being tired and some of the other, kind of pointy, prongy, things that came off of that. And at the same moment, being very, very happy, going, okay, so what's causing you to feel tired? What's, what are you holding on to that's doing so? And again, just in a nanoseconds time, I mean, if you've been watching me, you would have seen me hang up the phone, take a deep breath, and get up and go do something. But in that moment of all that deep breath was all this different processing. And so it's kind of like an example of what Sheila was talking about with the last couple of days, right? Crying or like that. In that breath, I could look at all of those different things, fully feel, explore, acknowledge, discard, all sorts of things, and then go do what was next, which was different than what I had thought prior to the phone ringing was going to be next.
Right.
But because it's at the behest of me, because I am the genesis of this, because I create the out there and how I flow through it, right? Then, yeah, you could look at the two things and they were different, but how I flow through them I was laughing and doing such thing and being happy about it, doing it joyful, not doing in theory what I all wanted to do or thought I was going to do or the plan was to do 5 minutes earlier. Didn't matter. The level of expansion, the level of thoroughness and enjoying the moment of what I was doing, and again noticing different things, and was absolutely had returned. It just was different than the quote unquote plan over here, there, the other thing. So that's part of this whole thing. We're in a moment right now where everything is changing incredibly fast. And we actually accelerate the changing of it, changing very fast. Each individual one of us, then you get 3 individual triads that change it, and so on and so forth. And you get different groups, and you get different areas, and you get different collectives of collective consciousness. Different ways doing that is a way to kind of break it down, that we're all expanding fast and flowing with it, because what we're going to start to, a lot of people already are, but what more wholesale everybody's going to start to realize is that this is what you're good at, doing all of these different things in all of these different ways, in all of these different, you could describe them as perceived twists and turns, all simultaneously, and that flow. So once you lock into or turn on your unique flow of how you do, of being in the heart's desire, of being in that expansion flow, then it won't be, you won't, as the example I give, you won't look at the phone and go, it will, you'll just go, right, okay, well, this is, pulled it up. So it's called up because of this, that, and the other thing. It's called up because I wanted to experience this. It's called up because I'm letting go of this. It's called up because this, that, and the other thing. It's called up because I gave my word. It's called up because I'm being of service. It's called up because this shift is, I'm actually now bringing more expansion to this whole area. So there's all sorts of things. So what we do is all inextricably linked to everything else in a very fast-flowing, open-hearted, expansive way, whether we realize it or not.
Well, something else that flowed in for me during what you were just saying there in regards to the ceiling and the floor and the expansion, okay? And that is, you were stating that, in the collective, and, there's a seed that has gone on, and it goes out. And I saw too in that, we've talked about the unbinding and unwinding that we do within ourselves. And I saw again the ripples in a pond. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, there have been lots of comments recently in different places around the internet and all that, hey, a lot more folks are waking up. That's that ripple in the pond. And for each and every one of us that are unbinding and unwinding this within ourselves, it's that ripple of the pond that's going, all of that is coming up from that. Mm-hmm. So that in and of itself is also changing, having to do with the what we thought was the ceiling now becoming the floor.
Right. And I have to chuckle because actually the me in the chair part is saying, and there really is no ceiling and there's no floor, but it's a good illustrative tool because, people the glass ceiling and all this. I mean, we use those kinds of things. Oh, you can't. So it's a good illustration. And if you can realize that you manipulate, you move, the floor and the ceiling are at the behest of you.
Right.
And they can be clear floors and ceilings. So you can see through and say, oh, well, I want to reach that thing that's a little higher. Okay, well, I'm just going to move the ceiling. You know, until you realize that, hey, I don't need to have a ceiling unless I choose to. Maybe I like to perceive expansion, thrill of, oh, okay, my ceiling's here and this there. Am I going to build a, you know? So again, that's all part of, but the way that we go about it, the way that we hold it and behold it, is a frequency change within us instead of being done to me, keeping me from doing this, right? And we realize that it's at the behest of us, and we are the genesis of it instead of the other way around.
Well, actually, what some of this in the last week, and well, longer than that, but what has come for me in what you were just saying there is that I spoke a little bit a minute ago about spatial differences, about that whole, momentarily dizziness thing. Okay, so I submit that, at least for me personally, I have a feeling that whatever boxes or ceilings and floors, I still insist on having in place.
Yeah.
At this moment of now, are all at my behest.
Yeah.
And all I'm seeing in this moment of now too, because I already, there's some things I do intrinsically know about the little me. And part of that is, I have getting into something and feeling comfortable in there, okay. As someone who's worn glasses since the age of 2, I can say that, this kind of, oh, where's the door? Oh, okay, that's the door. Some folks, it's a comfort level kind of thing, and that's all okay. It's choices. BZ's really helped me see about these choices that maybe I've had some reasoning somewhere within me that had these in that manner, and it's okay to recognize that as, rather than no, I don't have that boundary there. Oh, yes, I do have that boundary there. And perhaps I placed it there to give myself some time to get the feeling of the ceiling, which is now the floor. Because it could be a little disconcerting to go from what you thought was the floor and, oh, now I'm walking on the ceiling and, oh, shit, oh, what am I supposed to do now? Kind of thing. So it's okay to have those if
right.
That's...
Just do it consciously.
Yes. That's what I'm feeling now for myself. I don't want any boxes
right.
or limits. And I know that's where I'm going. I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel now that these boxes or limitations that I still am holding on myself are there for my own comfort level at this moment. And as soon as I'm done with them, I'll drop them.
Yeah, I have to agree with you because, and I know that's true because I am not at all dissatisfied with who and what I am right now, or where I am, or what I'm doing in any given moment. I have never felt more at peace with myself and more thrilled for precisely where I am. Flaws and all. I love my flaws right now. They're teaching me things. They're showing me things. I have nothing to complain about. I feel like I have made it because I'm right where I want to be. I know that, and I'm okay with where I am. I really, really am. And, I haven't ever felt like that before. I have always been, oh, I can't wait until this happens, or I'm really going to feel good when that happens. If only I had, or if I could, then. I don't have any of that anymore. I
Right.
just am so thrilled with this moment of now and everything that's happening. So I really feel it's because I am trusting that, well, especially if I stay in joy. And I know it just sounds weird because, and I'm not talking about, artificial. What I'm talking about is the joy of knowing, yeah, that I'm the genesis of this, that I have this, that I have chosen this, and that my soul knows exactly how to do it for the best experience possible.
Yeah.
And that comfort, the little me can rest in, fall into, and know. I feel like the 2-year-old in the back of mom's car. I don't have to know how to drive. I don't have to know how to get there.
Right.
I don't have to understand how this car works.
Right.
I'm with mom and we're going, and I really feel that way. I am with mom and I am going where she is taking me. And that she is going to show me all the grand things that I am about to do, because really that's what's happening here. And that's what I feel like. And so I am not upset about anything that's happening in this moment of now, because I'm in mom's car. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, I love that, Lisa. I love the way you just shared that.
It's what the other thing that came to me too is, when Lisa's in everything that she described, and it's perfect. I'm not missing anything. So she's going over and she's taking her glass and she's turning on the spigot and fill her up, again. And the only walls, in this case, instead of floor and ceiling, it could be side to side, that are there is because that's the container that's holding that sublimely delicious satisfaction at that moment. And hey, look, it's portable. So it's unlimited to where it can go. It's a non-depletion container of joy, which is what you are.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, and I know that I just heard a whole bunch of beings go, yeah, but there's so much this going on and there's so much that going on, and and I also heard that you just don't understand. Because every single time I talk about following only that which makes my heart sing or my heart's desire, I I always hear a whole bunch of beings, a whole cadre, maybe it's within me too, for all I know, I don't know, saying, yeah, but you don't understand. I have to, fill in the blank, whatever it is. Got to pay the bills, got to make the mortgage, got to feed the kids, I get that. I do. I'm not suggesting anything other than
with exactly that.
Yes, you did. But it came to me when you were sharing that, okay? It is your heart's desire to be in the position that you are in at this moment. That is a conscious choice that you have made. Mm-hmm. So that's my point here, and is what I'm saying. That is your heart's desire. Does it come with a few things that you really would like to not have? Sure it does. But if the bottom line is this is your heart's desire, if at any time any of that changes and it is no longer your heart's desire, or you don't like making the donuts, or no, whatever it is, then move towards that which makes your heart sing. Okay, so if you got to have the job to do this, because if your heart's desire is to provide for children or to have this or that or the other, but you hate making them donuts over here for this yahoo that doesn't treat you worth the crap, and move toward. That's a part for me of making those moves towards what your heart does desire in a fashion that makes your heart sing.
Sure. And to go back to what Lisa beautifully described, if I was describing that, I would say, using some of the same metaphor, it's mom's car and we're partners, and she's absolutely taking me when I get there, and I'm enriching the whole trip there. And the songs I come up with, and the I Spy games I play with, and the things I notice along the way, right?
Oh yeah, I'm so fun on a road trip.
Yeah. So all of those things in there, and another way, a very linear way I would describe it, as far as you said, well, that's where you chose to be. Yeah, because I'm in this, I'm a chess piece, and Source has put me in this place to do very specific things, and to make it so that I can do a whole myriad of very specific things for a myriad of very specific jobs, right? And that's not lost on me, not the least of which is the expansion of my soul, and that particular personal mission connection, but a whole other host of far-ranging galactic critical mission sort of things. And it's the same for everyone. The only difference might be with me is I know it, I realize it, I see it, so I flow with it. And if things get to a point, then either I say, hey, for part of me, if I'm separating myself out, we need to change some things because this is not working, or I've run through this, or the chess piece gets moved because I'm better served over here, then that's the way it is. But I'm flowing that. Does that mean that it's not all terrific? It is. Would someone from a linear perspective look at it and describe all of it as terrific? Probably not. But if you stood next to me and asked me, and then I shared the way I saw it or held it, the thing that was really fun, or really hard, or really exciting, or really painful, or really frustrating, all those different things, and we've talked about this in other conversations, the person would be going, oh, wow, yeah, I can see, because it's like they're reading a story, or they're watching, the quest or whatever it is, and then they get it because they don't have the same parameters that they had before. And that's what this word picture that we're painting with this conversation about, the shifting the floor and the ceiling, is that's it's helpful to use metaphors that we already use, whether we realize we're using them or not, in this existence of the ceilings and the floors, and I can't go here, and I can't do this, and I'm limited from this, and so, but we can change those. And to help that be more accurate, the old ones are changing anyways, and because we're not noticing that, that's where we're feeling kind of spinny, or feeling kind of these, as we started with the conversation, kind of all these different things all at once. And as Lisa talked about, we can be comfortable with those containers right now that we put ourselves in. We don't have to have them. We can have them for this time, but because we understand that they're there and we notice them, they're made out of different materials, and they interact with us in a very different way. So the door can be there. It can be a left hung door 1 minute and a right hung door the next minute, and then there's no doorway, just a big archway, or a whole big breezeway, or the whole wall's gone. And it doesn't, you can still hang paintings on it, even though there's technically not a wall, and it keeps, the cold air out, or whatever it is. So this is what we're going through. The one of the things that's really helpful to play with is that whether we know it or not, or understand it or not, or believe it or not, this is what is unfolding. So if you want to have more fun, then play with it in a different way.
Well, I'm kind of beckoned in this moment too to say, because I saw this come in while you were speaking there, BZ. Those of us who are older that are watching this, I remember when my ceiling and floor has changed a lot over the years of my life. Just before I did any kind of thinking about expansion or anything else, you know, I started at the ground floor in the corporate world. I climbed, well, as far as I decided I wanted to go in the corporate ladder, and got a glimpse of that, what's commonly referred to as that glass ceiling. And then I've stood on the ground floor of different ceilings, and which was a long way from the ground floor that I started at. So this is, but I'm using that as a way to help explain what we're speaking on here, because it is the same. Anyone who's lived through, I don't know, at least 25 to 30 years of life can see this as a metaphor, I think, for what we're describing here too. Ooh, along with the boxes. That's the same thing. I saw that right at the same time. I've moved myself out of different boxes along the way. I didn't hold it that way before, but I can very clearly see now where we've all done that. And we've kept ourselves in specific boxes until 9 times out of 10, it's something we would classify as uncomfortable, disastrous, that threw us out of that box. Most often for women my age, or sometimes a little younger, it has to do with divorce or whatever. And then you look back and, oh my God, what a box that was in, that I put myself in for that. As we just grow, another word for expand. Yeah, wow. And each one of us is in charge of how we go about that.
Or Source moved your chess piece to the next place down the road.
Well, yes, true. Yeah, the whisper, the tap, the slap, and the 2x4.
It's a cooperative thing. Nothing is done. It's a cooperative thing. It's a joyfully, just, no holds barred. Yes, let's do this thing. Whether you know it or not, believe it or not, or understand it.
Yeah, but just to be very clear, that does not necessarily negate confusion and fear. Because
you do it anyway.
Because those are favorite chestnuts in the linear game, yes.
Yeah, apparently, at least for me. I'll get enough of it when I'm done, I suppose. Well, do either one of you have anything that you would like to add to this particular energetic envelope?
No, just thank you. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, BZ. I'm really glad that your eye landed on this one. I think it's not only apropos for the moment that I find myself in, but on the tail of the other 2 conversations that we've recorded today, I think that it's pretty big too.
Yeah. I kept thinking of different things that Tim and Gina said today that they're right in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will have all the usual things in all the usual places as to how to get in touch with each one of us. And as always, if you'd like to reach out to, and I am ppcunite@gmail will still be there, but I also now have started using Conscious Conversation Central @gmail.com as well. So feel free to get in touch with any one of us if you'd like to share, talk, reach out or whatever. And till next time.
Much love.